everyone to the fifth anniversary of the English Coaching Project, Coop. Okay? For us, it's a very proud day. If you don't know.
John Hurt. He hasn't really spoken in public very often before, so... and his topic today is going to be on ban the boss. And here's John to explain what he means by that.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I think that all the presentations have been excellent, and probably we agree with 95% of what people have been said, but I can guarantee you always have one presentation where it'll be a polemic, and probably half the people won't agree and half the people will think, oh, what an excellent presentation. And that's my presentation tonight. This is come to me, this thought about ban the boss, because of my experiences in this co-op, and also the work we did to set it up. I remember that what mentioned at the beginning, Fernando, when we had me and Rob announced that we wanted to get a co-op, we invited all the English teachers in Vitoria. And I remember it was a meeting actually bigger than this. And after Fernando spoke, he goes, oh, it's a fantastic idea. I said, but you know, co-ops, I don't know, they don't work because you need a boss. You need someone in charge. And I accept that that is the common sort of opinion in society. But I'm going to raise the question tonight, and some of my students will have heard me say this before, do we really need a boss? That's the question. Now, just so I can work the audience, see who I've got. Is anyone here a boss?
I'm yours.
Yes, you're your own boss, okay. Anyone has been a boss? Yeah? Anybody wants to be a boss? No, you don't want to be, okay. Anybody in their family wears the trousers? Wears the trousers. Okay, now, this was the, these are the original Fabulous Four, well, and also my day as well, the 5 people who started the co-op. And we from the beginning said we're not going to have a boss, there's no one in charge, we're going to make the decisions collectively. Now, when I was researching, I don't know if anyone knows this person, when I was researching about co-ops, I remember coming across this guy, how do you pronounce it, Sarachaga, yeah, and he's the person in the Aretha, is it? Aretha company, and it's quite a successful bus company in the Basque Country. And he said this, which I thought was quite an interesting, I'm not going to read it out, you can read it yourself, but basically it sort of got me thinking about this idea, in the modern world, in a co-op, do you really need someone who actually used the term boss? Because boss, which I'm going to come on to explain, what does it actually mean? What does the word mean to you? Now, this is the idea that he had, that the figure of a director, a jefe, or a boss, doesn't do we really need it in the society today, 21st century? Now, what we're going to look at is a definition of what a boss is. Now, everyone, I think, agrees basically what a boss is. This is a person who exercises control authority, especially when it directs or supervises workers. Okay. Interesting, the second one in the dictionary, a politician who controls votes in the organisation. Okay. Yeah. Origin. Does anyone know where it comes from? Our technical people here?
You told me.
All right. It's actually, if anyone knows it, it's a Dutch word originally. Okay. And bas, yes, and it means master. Yes. Okay. Now that's an interesting thing. Why? Okay. First known use. Just as a little bit of a comparison, it's not that different with jefe. Okay. Interesting words which are connected, comes from French, the boss of the kitchen, okay? Some other words, look, cadete, capitan, caudillo, does anyone remember the famous one? Okay, he was a boss, okay? And also this word, cabo, okay? We have to remember those words, so quite similar. Let's go on to the, oops. back a bit. Okay, wait. Okay, here we go. Next one. Okay. Technical difficulties. Now, what we're going to look at is how the word became popularized. Okay, why did we start using in English? Why did we start using the word boss? Now, the beginnings of history has been the beginnings of capitalism. When feudalism changed into capitalism, you had basically people who were like slaves, the serfs, and you addressed someone who there was a lot of stratas in society, but basically you had your master and you did the work. Some people say perhaps it hasn't changed so much, but this word master, it's obvious what it means. Someone who's in total control of your destiny. You have to do everything that this person says. And boss became popularized actually in the 18th, 19th century when capitalism in the United States exploded. And so in more egalitarian United States, though, we're not going to say master, we're going to use a new word. But interestingly, it first became popular amongst, if anyone knows who these are the Sopranos, yeah? If you remember the Sopranos, you have the boss, you have the underboss, but interestingly as well, you have a capo, yeah, which is from the Italian, from Jefe as well. And so it became the terminology that they used in America to describe someone who had a company. Well, basically because they were fighting each other for control of companies. Some broke the law, some were inside the law. So that's how the term boss became popularized. This is a head of state, okay? He has some strange illusions, I think. I think there's a visit actually a visit to Saudi Arabia. Now, people say, okay, John, all right. The language is the language. It just describes what's going on. Now, one of the things that I said in the beginning was change the word and change the world. Now, I think that history is on my side. I think that people are actually moving against these authority figures. For example, we all remember a couple of weeks ago. The bosses. Next one. Doesn't want his or her opinions and ideas challenged. Yeah. Doesn't follow through on promises. They promise everything but they don't do it. Assigns deadlines without considering what's on my plate. The things that I have to do. Doesn't have time for me. Okay. Doesn't give helpful feedback about my performance. Doesn't say thank you for doing a good job. That's something that actually we do in the Coop. We always say by WhatsApp, thank you, that was good what you did. Okay, is disorganized and reactive. Okay, never thanks me for my work. Yeah, one, and obviously the last one, it's a bastard. Okay. Now imagine in a world, the world that we live in today. This came up in a class this week. I'm not saying where it was in a factory, and one of the students commented, he said they were talking to the boss, and the boss said to them, they had a disagreement, and the boss said, you have to realise, you should realise this, we don't live in a democracy. Work isn't a democracy. I tell you what to do. We've all heard that in different places that we've worked. But you have to bear in mind, how long do you actually work? What is the amount of time we do different activities? For example, in total in our lives we spend 25 years sleeping. Some more, some less, okay? We work in total for 10.3 years. So during that time, majority of people, are in a situation where they don't have personal freedom and autonomy. That they're actually being told what to do by other people. That means 40 hours on average a week. In Spain, obviously 300 hours more a year. If anyone doesn't know that, then the Spanish work more than the Germans, more than the British, 300 hours more on average. An officer spends 5 years sitting at a desk, long time in total. The average employee spends 2 years sitting at work in meetings. And all that time that we spend, and more, yeah. And all that time you're at work, somebody is telling you what to do. Somebody has control over your destiny. Now imagine if we lived in a world where you didn't have to do that, and you could just have time for other things to do. For example, men spend 92 days in the toilet, 4 minutes more than women, actually. Absolutely true. I don't know what the men are doing, but if you didn't have a boss, perhaps you could spend more time, you know. Women spend 8 years, I'm sorry for this, they're shopping, that's over 1 hour every single day. Apparently it's a true statistic. You spend 48 days having sex, okay? Again, some more, some less. Now, my point about this is, if we didn't have to work 10.3 years, we could have more time for other activities. Yeah? Now, I don't know if this is related, but the average man will spend 1 year staring at women. Okay? Staring at women. Okay? Probably the two are connected. Okay? But imagine in a different world, you could have time to do the things that you're more interested in, whether it's being in the toilet or looking at women. Okay? Now, final part is you say, oh, John, you're a dreamer. There's always going to be bosses. There's always going to be people who are oppressed. Well, I would say that we have to make a start by changing the relationship in work. I agree with what Caldas Salajaga said at the beginning. You have to look at the relationships, and language is quite important. But it isn't true that there hasn't been times in history when the relationship between people, between workers, it's not true that it hasn't been that oppressive sort of nature. This is a picture, you probably, I don't know if people recognise who it is. It was a young woman, this is in Barcelona, if you can recognise it. It was at the beginning of the Spanish Civil War. She looks very proud, she's 17 years old. She actually died last year, 92 years old. And you can see the pride in her face. She was defending the revolution in Barcelona. Now, someone who we mention quite a lot in English classes is George Orwell. Now, George Orwell was an upper class Englishman, but he went to Spain to go and help fight against Franco. And one of the things that you notice when you read his works, yeah, he talks about changing the world socially, but he's very he was able to listen carefully to what people were saying to him. But one of the things he noticed was that in the first 36, 37, 38, that people's relationships changed and words changed. The words that people used to address themselves changed. I think this is an interesting point here. He said that you can read it yourself, but he said when he went there in 1936, what disappeared were was the language of like privilege, bootlicking, and being downtrodden. The second part was here is that people, the Spanish people had a decency. There's a part which I haven't quoted, which I thought was very good. When he first went there, and he was in a cafe in one of the squares in Barcelona, the waiter came and he was going to give the young waiter a tip, and the waiter said to him, "No, we don't take tips." And the manager came out and said, "Look, we are all equal." And he said, "And also, don't use that term instead. Don't say that. We're all the same." And very, very quickly, the old forms of like oppressive language disappeared. Another point here, okay. For the part that I thought was interesting, he said servile and even ceremonial forms of speech had temporarily disappeared. So in a sort of revolutionary situation, the language changed to reflect the situation that was happening. Now what I want to sort of leave you on is just very, very briefly, is when I first came here, when I first came to live here, I used to mention to people, I said, "Have you heard of Durruti?" Okay? And then you say, "Who?" Yeah. And there was a band in Scotland called Durruti's Column, and yeah, it's got a Scottish indie band, and they got the name from one of the leaders of the anarchists in the Spanish Civil War. And not many people, again, does anyone know who Durruti was? You don't know, okay. So it's interesting, again, a cultural sort of thing that I learned about Durruti in my O-level O-level history. And anyway, the point about this was the same situation as George Orwell, that Durruti was the leader of the miners, the miners, and they had like an independent militia. They had no officers, they had no bosses, and they decided everything democratically. What I mentioned before, Caudillo, the Franco, used officers. They used the bosses in the army, and at first they were winning. They won in Madrid, they won in Barcelona, but Durruti and his people, who had no officials and no leaders, beat back Franco in Madrid and Barcelona. Why? Because they had an autonomous leadership, and they had